Hyderabad, your one-stop destination for acing the UPSC exams, particularly the upcoming mains exam 2025. Join us today, follow us on our YouTube channel, stay updated with all the current affairs and ensure your chances of succeeding in the upcoming exam. Now with that, let me welcome you to today's news analysis, where the newspaper seems to be full of either the Israel-Iran war, its fallouts on other residents, citizens from India who are now scrambling to survive and return home by accessing the nearby countries' border areas. Then, of course, we will talk about how, according to the SIPRI report, India's defense expenditure, defense reinvigoration and more investing in designing of newer weapons has been increasing. We talk about also furthermore news cases on aircraft investigation, as well as how PM Modi is busy addressing the needs of the global south in the G7 platform. Across all these newses, let me guide you to Hindu, the Hyderabad of today. And on the first page, we talk about how Indians with their own vehicles in Tehran were told to leave the city immediately. Well, not just Indians, but also residents of US, residents of UK and many other countries. They have been signaling their citizens to leave the impacted area of the war with immediate effect. So not only are people fleeing from Israel, but also Iran, owing to the heavy exchange of missilery that continued practically all night yesterday. And Indian embassy in Iran has urged Indian nationals, all the people of Indian origins, the PIOs. Now, this also reminds me of making a very clear distinction between the PIO and the NRI categories. There was an amendment done which has created a different categories, and amendment corresponds to your part 2 of the Constitution, very crucial to know for the exam. So remember, these categories and what rights do people have under the PIO card holder are important to understand. So all Indian nationals and PIOs are now running out of Tehran, and since the airspace is closed, most of them are trying to escape from cross-border into Armenia and other nearby countries. The government has been issuing helplines, and all is being done to safely engage with those people, arrange some kind of buses or some kind of other facility for them to really leave the war-torn region right now, because nobody had expected the sudden escalation of war is for everyone to see. Now with that, as developments still continue, as US volunteers to mitigate in the conflict, we'll see what further developments happen today. And then on the same page, we see how Prime Minister Modi, who has arrived in Alberta to attend the G7 meeting which Canada has been hosting. Now, one of the key agendas of the meeting, apart from addressing the tariff issue, behind which US sudden hike of the tariff has been responsible, the other some important discussions that are going to happen are about de-escalating the Russia-Ukraine war, which is now entering its 3rd year. We also talk about escalating Israel-Iran conflict. Then another agenda, of course, would be the unification of Cyprus. So, of course, here there is a tussle, ideological tussle with Turkey that comes into picture. The government also said that Prime Minister will talk about economic development for the countries of the global south, the developing countries who still experience certain fair or you can say there is a lack of fair market rules when it comes to the global south countries in the world market, in the trading market. So these are certain priorities of the global south that the Prime Minister is going to highlight. Of course, the hidden agenda will always be trying to harness as much support as India can towards its anti-terror agenda, towards finding a more permanent position in the United Nations Security Council. Now with this in mind, let's proceed with other news pieces. And we all know that Air India is under scanner right now. We know that Air India has cancelled more than 16 flights flights, because although the Director General of Civil Aviation says there was no major safety concern, but even after the major crash of AI 171 on June 12th, we have seen many other passenger aircrafts which developed a technical glitch. This included one that was flowing from Kochi, another that was flowing in from New Delhi. So all these flights and various kind of technical problems, whether it's the malfunctioning of air conditioning system, whether it's sparking that's seen in the tire of the airplane, all these definitely point out to a lack of public trust in the airlines. So therefore, with regards to these many cancellations, today the airlines has been advised to, one, work better at internal coordination. Second, strictly reveal its safety protocols to the DGCA. That's something that's happening. And as we talk about this investigation and what can Air India do, sadly enough, the DNA profiling also is being done, including the forensic experts of all the people who have lost their lives in this tragic accident. Now with that, let's quickly skip to more national, international news here. And here there's one news, although this happens to be very city specific, but I thought it's important from the perspective of social justice, because we talk about Anganwadi Center. We know that in India, under the National Education Policy 2020, the government has now made 3 years of preschool education mandatory for all children. When you talk of pre-education or preschool education, Anganwadi plays a crucial part by providing free education. Apart from that, nutritional meals, even apart from that, some basic medical health care to young children under the age of 3, under the age of 5, apart from their mothers. So which means the government is trying to today talk about ensuring more regular supply of nutritious food to the Anganwadi centers. It not only helps in more children from the below poverty line background in attending the schools, because unfortunately, if you remember, just 2 years before in Karnataka, when the scheme of Anganwadi and midday meal scheme, it became caught up in a religious and political controversy, where supplying of eggs to children became a hot issue between political parties. That led to a discontinuation of scheme in certain districts. And how it backfired? The enrollment ratio fell down. There was a higher dropout ratio. So clearly we know that nutritional outcomes in school promote enrollment outcomes. With that in mind, today in the city of Hyderabad, it is once again being strictly implemented as an important guideline to the local authorities that all the people who are beneficiaries of the scheme, the poor children, pregnant women, lactating women, all these should receive all the benefits under central and state welfare schemes. So which mean about more than 150,000 children across various age groups are today being given free nutritious food and health checkups in various Anganwadi centers. So we further need to promote this, because as I said, good nutrition in school paves way for a healthier higher schooling among Indian children. Now with this, let me proceed further with the newspaper. Let's skip this local news part and let's go back to our editorial page where the more important articles are located. Okay, so let's slide down. Okay, there's one small news which caught my attention, although not very important for the mains exam, but yes, we should look at it in passing. We often talk about the solid waste management rules and its amendment. We also talk about plastic waste management rule, which are strictly trying to engage people in eliminating the use of single-use plastics. Plastics which are used and then discarded, like straws, glasses, and small plastic cups, plates. These are single-use plastic items, but the state of Kerala has once again been at the forefront, where the Kerala High Court has banned the use of single-use plastic, the SUPs, in the hilly regions, because careless, irresponsible disposal of plastic waste in public resorts, in entertainment centers, leads to them being consumed by wildlife through dumping areas. So which leads to a danger for wildlife. Also, it leads to leachate. There is a word that we often use in solid waste management rules called leachate. This the government points out and says leachate from plastic waste, the liquid that comes out, it's extremely toxic and carcinogen if it goes and starts flowing into agriculture or if it starts flowing into the underground water. So the government is asking, the High Court is asking the state government to take more awareness spreads on completely outruling the use of single-use plastic. It's indiscriminate dumping here and there. So that's an interesting news that caught my attention. Now with that, let's come to the editorial page. I will not be handling the first article here because it's very repetitive. In the last 4 days, we have consistently spoken about what are we doing to improve the aviation safety in India. This article talks about something same. It says that today, so I'll just give you 2-3 points, the crux of the article without going in the nitty-gritty of it. The article talks about how today, after this major crash of 12th June, in which more than 250 people have lost their lives tragically, and yet through the black box, yet through the visual and audio clippings, through the DNA profiling, the exact reason behind the cause has not been able to be figured out. In that situation, the public is losing its trust on air travel. They believe that we have schemes like Udan, Udega Desh Ka Aam Nagrik. These were created by the government to subsidize air travel. Does it mean that the subsidy came at a trade-off of safety? That is a question that the common man is asking today, and here experts on YouTube, as they are just trying to speculate and give their own theory about the accident, we know that in general there is an anxiety, a fear among people of not only taking flights but particularly taking the Boeing aircrafts. Now, the only survivor who had escaped out of the 272 fatalities that happened, he said that he had observed loud noises just after the liftoff of the plane. There were some others who say that it was so hot and suffocating. There were some others who are saying that there was a wheeling sound coming, but nobody took responsibility of that. So which means that as we are waiting for more data to appear in front of the public, so that we can actually book the person who's responsible for it, whether it was the airline's carelessness or whether today it's the government who's hiding something that public doesn't know. What we know today is that this is an eye-opener, which means public wants correct investigation. Public wants reassurance that air travel is once again safe, because now this is bringing into picture many more accidents that have been happening and nobody has been claiming the responsibility. So therefore, we need a dedicated flight safety study, which not only talks about all maintenance and protocols being followed by the aircraft, but also certain other technical aspects need investigation, like what is the safe speed of takeoff. If you break that, the engine failure becomes a risk. Whether a pilot should be taking a decision to continue or to reject taking off possibility within few seconds after being on the runway, as the runway is about to end. Now, therefore, every time a problem happens, pilots are the ones who get the blame. There is a lot of blame gaming happening, making pilots the scapegoat. However, we don't realize that pilots are the ones who are also losing their lives. So, it is also important that pilots are allocated duty on a very, very rotational basis. Their well-being is thought of. Now, understand that overloading was also one issue that was being investigated in one of the previous accidents and this one as well. Our airlines, just in order to please the passengers, allowing the overloading of planes with passengers and luggage? Are they following these protocols? Similarly, do the pilots go through that kind of training in commercial industry, that they go through a proper training where they understand what do you mean by slow acceleration? If a plane is showing the signs of a lethargic acceleration, should you stop immediately? And should you completely create a panic call and stop any prospect of taking off? If such protocols were in place, if commercial pilots who are mostly young and they are fresh at work, if they were aware at such technical takeoff landing details, plane, they can relate with the functioning of the plane so deeply, then probably this accident could have been averted. So that's something today we are talking about. Not only a transparent investigation, but also proper training protocols and understanding that a pilot is a human resource. works. Invest in him or her through training, by giving them breaks, by creating an ethical work structure for them. That can ensure us more aviation safety in the long run. The second article of the editorial, very important, social justice, economy. It talks about today India's pension system needs to be more inclusive. When we use the word inclusive, we know we are talking about the fact that today, as we say that pensions are a right of any retired public employee, there should be some mechanism even in the private sector of ensuring a lifelong saving or income after a person is not working or they are not fit to work anymore. But let alone the private sector, in India, even in the government sector and in formal sector, registered organized sector, there is a huge gap and discrepancy. Very few people get a benefit of pension scheme. Others are having nothing to survive on after their work life is over. That's what the article says. One more danger article points out too, that do not ignore issues like pension, saying that India is a young country. Agreed that as per the population estimates, average Indian is only 28 years old. Agreed that we have massive young population and barely about 10% geriatric or old population. Let's not forget that demographic profile is changing very, very soon, with fertility rates declining in southern Indian states below replacement level fertility of 2.1. With majority of Indian states having less fertility among women, younger population will by 2041, as per the estimates of World Bank, as per the estimates of UN, it will be taken over by old population, quite like China, quite like Japan, quite like South Korea and Russia. We will become a country where aging population comes. So today, if our pension protocols are not in place, tomorrow we will have to face a major problem. So the article says that pensions, which means funding that you receive after your active work stops, it's important to maintain your economic stability, medical expenses, dignity of life after you retire. But there are various reasons because of which in an old age, after retirement, whether it's voluntary, whether it's a part of your service, you will experience reduced earning capacity. At the same time, in the country, inflationary pressures are happening. Prices of goods and commodities of consumption will increase. Healthcare is becoming more expensive. You need to have a stable component of saving in the form of pension. As per the Economic Survey 25-26, Indian pension asset, Indian pension fund is just about 17% of the GDP. If you compare this with the more advanced industrial economies, there it's 80%. Sadly, only 12% of India's population today is being covered by formal government-regulated pension schemes. The coverage is so poor that even in certain organized company in private sector, there are multiple schemes employees have to take just to get basic monthly income secured. There is no umbrella or no one universal scheme which is covering each one. In contrast, if we talk about the informal sector, which is a major sector in India, there, the adoption of schemes like voluntary pension scheme or the national pension scheme, Atal Pension Yojana, is barely about 5.3% financial year 2024. Why? There is no money, but then why people are not adopting voluntary pension schemes? Lack of awareness, lack of digital knowledge to access knowledge and information about these schemes. Let's understand that in India, informal sector contributes to more than 85% of the GDP. As markets are expanding, informal work, online part-time work, platform work, Ola, Uber, Swiggy, Zomato, you name it, GIG work will only become more important. This segment of GIG, which today Indian government proudly covers under the Social Security Code 2020. The Social Security Code 2020 was created to provide the informal and GIG sector employees with some kind of social security. But in reality, let's understand that with this huge population working in the GIG and informal sector, if they are excluded from a proper universal pension plan, then there is a massive financial crisis India is heading on to by 2050, as our old age population will reach 30%. Then the dependency ratio increases. What is dependency ratio? The number of people who do not earn. They are not a part of the workforce. They depend on others for their survival. This could be children and this could be people above 60, 65. The dependency ratio, when it increases, it reduces your national income. It creates too much pressure on the working force of the economy. In India, already it is informal. So how to provide for the expanding old age population if there is no pension? India's path to achieve and become a developed economy will only happen by 2047, and only when it makes sure there is financial inclusion. We provide people some security against old age poverty. This is a specific term used by the article, old age poverty. You may have read about feminization of poverty. You may have read about caste-based poverty, intragenerational poverty. This is old age poverty. Poverty that happens after 65 or 60 years of age, when your active capacity to work finishes and you become a dependent ratio of the population because you don't have a fixed income. Currently, pension coverage is not happening to so many people. One, people in the informal sector are ghost employees. Informal employees are not visible on paper. How to reach out to them for pension schemes? Talking about private insurance scheme and income schemes like Atal Pension Yojana, there is a lack of awareness. People don't know about it. There is a lack of sensitization. In India, the poor people are unaware about how to make use of these schemes. Main reason why informal employees are not a part of pension structure is because our pension schemes are also not uniform. They are very broken and fragmented in nature. Government says we have Social Security Code for the informal employees in the name of Social Security 2020 code, but the problem is most of it is coming as a part of voluntary contributions by people. There is not a fixed government spending on them at all. Similarly, it is difficult to find out where are informal sector employees located. Where to find them? Do you find them in agriculture sector, or you find them in the urban areas as urban poor people? Now, when you talk about more advanced and developed economies, here pension ecosystem is very well developed. It works as a very multiply hierarchy created structure. It is taking care of various population segments in a different way. Different for the central government, different at the level of district authorities, different at the level of village authorities. But let's take an example of Japan here. Japan operates a compulsory flat rate contributory scheme, which means every citizen of Japan from the age of 20 to 59 will have to provide some fund to the pension scheme. They want it or not, it's compulsory. If you earn something, you have to put something in that fund. This takes care of self-employed, farmers, public employees, all their families and dependents. How does this help? By the time you retire, you will have that fund to depend upon. New Zealand, it offers a flat pension rate to citizens at the age of 65 and above, which means if you are living in New Zealand for 10 years, you will be eligible for this pension component. Now, 40% people are relying on this New Zealand offer as their main income during old age. That's the benefit of public support in pension system. Now, today, if we say that the larger part of our workforce is informal, it's rural, it's illiterate, then don't we need financial literacy and sensitization at the bottom grassroots level, at the village level? For example, in Australia, they have a separate policy called literacy education policy, in which from school itself, literacy in the terms of financial knowledge, banking, pensions, savings, investment, all this is being given to children right at the school level. By the time they graduate from school, they are aware of how to plan for their old age. We need something similar in India too. Talking about countries like Netherlands and United Kingdom, they also run on a model where participating in pension schemes is a compulsion. You have to do it. Certain such countries like Nigeria and Africa have also invested heavily in digital pension programs so that citizens can access them equally. That's where we are lacking as a country. So talking about that, if you just discuss about the Mercer CFA Institute Global Pension Index, then overall value of 44% was given to Indian pension system. It has further declined from the previous few years. Countries like China, despite facing challenges of high population, are doing better than us. So today what do we need? A complete change of pension plans by the government. Let's have a universal structure that is a three-tier structure that takes care of different agencies of the government reaching out to different set of people, plus financial literacy and education regarding saving and investment in the school. digital literacy to make sure people can use online programs. Please, different layers of the government should reach out to: one, self-employed people; second, government employees; third, to those people who are a part of the GIG platform sector. So as India is now experiencing a change in demography, old people will dominate the population in another 20-25 years. A good pension structure system will make sure that we do not have excessive poverty in the years to come. That's the pitch of the article, very important for GS paper 2 and GS paper 3. Having said that, as we proceed, we have already done the Nuclear Liabilities Act day before yesterday, and this article talks about Russia's nuclear planning, so not exactly applicable. We'll skip this right now. And then there was another news which said also because in the light of so many aircraft and helicopter accidents that are happening, the government has also made certain Amarnath Yatra routes as no-fly zones. So all in all, in the aviation sector, helicopter travel, plane travels, a lot of paramilitary operations are going on to check them for security and safety using drones and balloons. In case disaster happens, we are now pre-prepared for medical evacuation of people, helping people and doing disaster management. Now the articles on the science page, there's one last article before I would end. This is the CIPRI report, quite important. So here you should know about CIPRI a little bit. It says that most of the countries, all the 9 countries which have nuclear power today, whether it's India or Pakistan, including these both, are in the last 2 years continuously putting more and more money in their defense expenditure. They are buying various kinds of specialized missiles, drones and latest war technology. India is no exception. Talking about nuclear modernization program of 2024, India has been investing in upgrading existing weapons, newer versions of the weapons. This is coming through the report of CIPRI, which is Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. It's a global think tank which creates a list and index of countries and their defense expenditure on an annual basis. It says that India has now a very unique kind of weapon called canistered missiles. They can be transported with warheads. They are capable of carrying nuclear warheads even during peacetime, and they can also help in transporting and allocation of missiles in crucial places. It also says that the combination of various nuclear related military infrastructure is giving Indian Army more strength. The kind of situation geopolitically is going on, we all know. We said that the CIPRI says it's a kind of arms race going on between countries right now, where various nuclear countries are busy in just improving their capacity. What happened with Iran and how it angered the US and Israel, we have just seen now as an example. According to CIPRI estimate, India is storing warheads that have increased to 180 in January 25 from 172 in just the previous year. Whereas Pakistan is static at 170, but US has been able to deploy 1770 warheads. So it's just like every country is only working on improving its capacity. Same goes for Russia. So this is the article. The article also says that there has to be certain upper limit beyond which countries should not be allowed to collect or stockpile the number of warheads, because it's becoming like a very dangerous, volatile situation as global politics evolves. So I'll end this discussion today here because the article on the science page is too technical. So maybe we can skip it for the day, and I'll take your leave for today's news analysis. See you tomorrow with another exciting Hindu session. In the meantime, should you have any comments, should you have any questions, any suggestions, you want to share something, or you want us to take in detail any particular news issue or current affair, then do let us know by posting us, reaching out to us. You can email, you can call at Vishnu IAS Hyderabad. Thank you so much.
मानो तो 5 particular